Holding Prose by me, Grant Harding. This is a collection of poems. And I saw a comment on one of my videos. Somebody recommended that I read some to you. So I think we'll probably get through the whole book today. I don't remember how many poems are in here, but as you can tell, it's not very thick. These hands. I can't give you the world. I can't give you love lost. I can't give you trendy brands, but what I can give you is these hands. These hands that can peel apart your darkness and find your light. These hands that can cook when you are too tired. These hands that can be mangled into comfort when you are too weak. These hands that can dry the tears from your weary cheek. These hands that can mount a light in your heart when there is no hope. These hands that can fix the bed in your head when you need rest. These hands that can write prose in your soul when you need it most. Hands that can lift you up, thrust you towards the heavens like an angel who lost her wings. Hands that can support your goals. To be the best you can be, like a man crazed on helping you do all the things. Hands that aren't afraid of your past. Hands that don't know how to judge. Hands that lead, hands that guide, and know, I can't give you treasures undefined. And I can't give you time to rewind, but these hands can hold yours tight to mine. Through every challenge, through every trial, clenching, love divine. And what these hands can't do is they can't abandon you. And they can't hold anything over your head either. These hands appears in a book of Grant Harding's called A Poet's Conceit. The protagonist writes a poem for a woman who he finds to be quite the inspiration. Unfortunately, her feelings were not reciprocated. I think this is the first person in the book that the protagonist, John, kind of starts a romance with. And she was divorced in the book. And her ex-husband was pretty mean to her when they were married, and even after they were divorced. And that's why he would hold things over her head, manipulate her even after the relationship had ended, and that caused a rift in my protagonist's knowing of this woman. She was so still controlled, pretty much, by her ex-husband. What's a man to do? It's something how she moves, attracting me like no other lover. The way her clothes hang from her skin, the way they sweetly flow like liquefaction. Maybe, if I steal a bit more from poets past, I can make something that describes at last this radiant woman and the light she casts. But time hasn't happened enough. Not enough minds have lived. And here I sit, grasping for phrases, words, and verbs that do not yet exist. When all of time can't depict her, and I must make something new, what on earth is a man to do? What's a Man to Do also appears in Grant Harding's novel called A Poet's Conceit. The poem references a song by the Beatles called Something, and a poem by Robert Herrick called Upon Julia's Clothes. I like this poem because it kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit. It's something how she moves, attracting me like no other lover. I think the song goes, something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Right? That's a Beatles song. And the way her clothes hang from her skin, the way they sweetly flow like liquefaction. I think the poem that it references here is called Upon Julia's Clothes. It was a very beautiful poem, very short. I'd encourage you to look it up later. And in the poem, the writer, Robert Herrick, he talks about this woman, Julia, and just the way her clothes are on her body. He found it so beautiful. The poem's very old, and that's about all you could talk about back then. You couldn't really get too graphic, so. Not a poem. This isn't a poem, it's just how I'm feeling. Perhaps it's part of my life now in healing. Every woman pressed below me kneeling, every soulless gaze that steals my kiss, their makeup spread on my bed like mist. Every time they beg me, baby, every vulnerable woman in my room maybe makes me wonder what now I to do. Because it's all tainted now that I've known you. When they touch me by hand, I imagine it's yours. I pretend that it's you walking through the doors and gates I open on first dates over and over again. Where's the farthest you've traveled? India. Have you been? When their gums flash me, it couldn't compare to your smile rare and locks of your hair. An answer given, nose crinkled, that's fair. If I claimed others filled your place, I'd be lying. This isn't a poem, because I'm not even trying. When I think of you, the words burst in aorta, violently enough to think I was dying. It's the inspiration and respiration I lust for and savor. It grips my soul and flushes through vena cava. Excuse the medical terms, but it puts me in position to boldly claim you're my favorite physician. It's just how I feel. I swear this isn't a poem, but I've got thoughts to produce, and by God I'll sow 'em. So if my imagination can do anything but make a reality, if it's the last thing I do, I'll get what's inside out of me, because one thing is for certain. I'll hang on to this feeling. For as long as I have it, I'll be wheeling and dealing sweet words and passion on paper appealing. I still have the memories, like blood in a vial, and the document on my phone of your favorites. What's that called? Like love of new things. Oh, a neophile. One thing's for sure, I'm not alone, but I'm lonely. With no shortage of women wishing if only just one of them would gift me the motivation. Just one of them would curse me with incantation to write for them and not a distant evocation. And now here I share this lonely view with the birds, yearning a burning sensation from a guarded heart on vacation. Lips stinging only, you've always been excellent with words. And just like these words, not a poem, remember? I lied to myself, thinking this doctor I'd forget in December. When all things come together, be it self-made deceit, that's what we in the business call a poem's conceit. Also appearing in Grant Harding's A Poet's Conceit, this poem remains a personal and crowd favorite, detailing the ironic conceit of the words being a poem after a staunch denial with the phonetic pun of a literary conceit, bringing all things together. It's delightful to understand, but less enjoyable to explain. To add a third layer to it all, the protagonist in the book struggles with pride. And to add yet another layer, a conceit can also be defined as a metaphor, of which the aforementioned book surely is. Although the definition of a conceit is varied and abstract, for the purpose of this poem and the accompanying book, it should be defined as excessive pride in oneself, a big metaphor, the point in a story or poem where the plot comes together. I'd like to consider this my magnum opus, but nobody seems to agree. I've read this aloud to a public forum before, and they didn't. Well, actually, that's not true. I read it a couple of times. I think the first time people seemed to like it, but the second time nobody really liked it. So, to add a little bit more context in the book, where this poem, where it's said, it's at a point where he's going back to somebody that he presumably loved before. And he talks about how he tried to move on, but none of them could inspire him like she did. In the book, the protagonist is out searching for inspiration, I guess you could say. But, dating for inspiration, he couldn't find it again. Bury me at Woodbury. Black berries, plump like water drops, from earthly threads they hang. A gust of wind, a child's touch, a bursting song they sang. The dew drew mist on leafy ferns, and from their palms create a shining tear of water drops. The bullfrog's kiss it waits. The weathered winds along the glade dance and bless my hair. An unseen trope of older days, I greet the spirits there. A peaceful drip of memories, like honey off the tongue, corrected by the tumble hole, whose words exclaim from lung. And here I built my cabin new, from wood the berry made, betwixt the water sources, a pond, a lake, and glade. And in this land my thoughts erect, like home upon this ground, like sawgrass from around the pond, like trees of east unfound. And here I stay, a man of free, free like Innisfree. Purple rests the evening glow, painted just for me. The mornings I will greet the sun, arms wrapped like holy shrouds. The evening I will cry again, the song of unlit clouds. The wind, the frogs, the trout, the streams and all the vermin, the trees, the vines, the stones, bless this night a joyful sermon. And to my home I wander now, and in my bed I lay, a touch of bright obsidian, alone I do not stay. The nature and the spirits give me peace throughout the day, but in my darkened evenings my berry's wish obeyed. Gentle locks caress me here, the lamplight shines her skin, darker than the evening sky, such beauty held within. And here I stay for all the time that God has given. Bury me at Woodbury when I am finished living. Woodbury, Pennsylvania is a quaint and bucolic area inspired by W.B. Yeats' The Lake Isle of Innisfree. This is a good poem. For those of you who don't know, Innisfree and Yeats wrote a poem called The Lake Isle of Innisfree. I forget how it goes off the top of my head. Is it, "Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for life's more full of weeping than you can understand"? Is that the Lake Isle of Innisfree? I forget. But to add a little bit more context to this poem, Yeats and a couple other folks, Thoreau, I don't know, perhaps there's some other ones that I believe that people consider them to be transcendentalists. And they're very much anti-growth as an economy. They didn't like the Industrial Revolution. They were very much in tune with nature. And they believed in living with nature. A lot of Yeats' poems are about nature, and Thoreau wrote about nature a lot as well. And I think a lot of people, myself included, whenever we hear of their penchant, I guess, for living in the woods, it sounds good. You really should live with nature, not against it and pollute it and everything. But the one thing that I didn't like about a lot of these transcendentalists is they were so obsessed with being alone. They didn't put a lot of value in connection with people. And I wanted to write a poem that glorified nature and also companionship. So in this poem, the writer, his berry is his partner. Now what is this one? I don't even remember half of these. Beanstalks. And from the 9 beanstalks out of the brevity of the glade. I think there's some spelling errors in this version. This must be an old print. And from the 9 beanstalks out of the brevity of the glade, the gardener chooses two to hold their rightful place for his attention. Swift hand bury the seeds in containers fit for a king and queen. On the mantle above the fireplace, before the stone-walled chimney they stayed. Bursting through the covering, the seedlings begin life new. Excited and perplexed, for they raise their hands and arms to the heavens. And after their poles were granted, they climbed alone for a while, feeling their work against the monolith gave them peace, but not peace enough, till one day she reached over and touched him with her tendril. Thigmotropism is what that is called, as she continued to reach with leaves and limb. And he reached back. An interwoven myriad of highways and dendrites pulled them closer and closer, tighter and tighter, more secure than the seeds they sprang from. Until one day she fancied the stone wall chimney, above the fireplace, on top of the mantle. And then they were back to where they were once before, older and more confused. I have no idea what Beanstalks is about. Grant Harding. I think we do. The use of the pronouns, I think it's pretty obvious. Money earned. Crisp paper, weightless, meaning as staunch as the weight is low. Pixels on a screen display the visions and the fire in our minds. What can a man do with these, asks the contrarian. A transcendentalist may not have much use. The monks of Tibet may formally agree, and the enlightened also follow suit. Now are slaves of our own mind, chasing the bills and credits, so that we can build ourselves the life we wasted, money that we earned. Of course, earn being the pun here. What is this? Starving. Take every breath from out my lungs. Take these words from out my heart and hold them as your own. For when your soul starves, you have all of me. Wow. Yeah, this is an older print apparently. How far are we? About halfway through. Duel for Joyce. Down wallow, swollen, trodden, soulless eyes gaze under mist jettisoned, foot gear drenched in the trench in the tears of God glistening along the pavement. And now, methinks, aura from some poet's past, a scriber of centuries, beckons my attention. Spry snap in the neck brings my mind parallel to terrace. And what have ye now, poet, prophet, Virgil? Today you lead. Aye, said he, but not of house of Virgil. Rejoice for Joyce. How are you now? Ringing words untrue of shock, candor found not. Teach me something, jubilant Joyce. Scrawling virgin banal has it? Is that word banal or banal? I've always wondered that. Your work is weak, he puffed. The tsar is heavy, you stay committed. And that is not to say that your interest in reptiles has prospered, do you know? I have never. But only in a few instances. Perhaps thrice. To the 10th power. There shall be no more. Tail between my legs, I stand committed to my craft. Let me show you, he sang, a book of finer teaching, one that better fills the spaces between ellipses. And as I stood, Socks Soothes gobbling his preaching, pulled the spirit from Irish Tog, the name Ulysses. Duel for Joyce references James Joyce's masterpiece, Ulysses. So what's going on in this poem, and I think I did it quite well, is this person meets the spirit of James Joyce. And he's trying to impress him, with his big words and everything. And James Joyce, he makes fun of him. He says, your work is weak, the sore is heavy, you stay committed. And that is not to say your interest in reptiles has prospered, do you know? He's accusing the writer of using a thesaurus. The saurus, a thesaurus, I don't know. And Ulysses is a book, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or read it. Ulysses is considered the greatest masterpiece in the English language. It's so difficult to read. I joke and I say that I don't think he uses the same word twice. It's a 600-page book. Words that you did not know exist. And it's not really enjoyable to read, honestly. It's more of an exhibition of his craft than it is a good story. But it's considered the best. Jester. I'm not always going to be the most entertaining person. I'm not always going to have something interesting to say. After all, there's 24 hours in a day. But I know I'll always be there, in every way. Sometimes I like to just observe and stare, sit and exist. It doesn't mean I'm mad or upset. It means that I like what I'm looking at. And people forget it means I'm concentrating on something worth feeling. So sometimes, like a jester, I try to entertain. Fighting silence with comedy is my bane. But really exciting or mundane, I prefer it all just the same. Sometimes making conversation is hard. It's a skill. Not everyone wants to talk all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only person who could stop me was you. Distinctly I remember, it was in grey December, when each separate breadcrumb on the broken road turned stale. With all force against me, be it rain or hail, I was determined so far as I could see to prevail. But like bane of device, methought now thrice, there was only one thing on this earth that could stop me. And no boy, is this not fraught with irony? Sometimes I wonder to this day if you even had a clue. The only thing that could stop me was you. And you did. And my pride I hid, as you decided to just go for it with someone new. Not my best work, I don't think. Over my dead body. Am I going to die? Don't think of that right now. Take this gift, hold it as your own. For when your time comes and your seeds are sown, it will be known to farmers of faith your spirit is grown. These last days are the best days. This is my job, this is my passion. Over my dead body will yours in some sinister fashion rise and reach gates of pearls without every single moment of terrestrial pleasure that I can give you. So consume this gift. Imbibe it like milk and honey. Let touches of adoration from mom and dad and brother occupy your senses. Let their words warp you and wrap you like the gift that you are. Scenes so sweet you dare not dream of anything less. For now you feel the focus of their free verse love, so thick you'll begin to loathe love. So over my dead body, patient of mine, will I let morphine kisses steal your time? Away from this pulchrous pleasure, delicate, intimate, divine. Grant Harding is a licensed pharmacist and currently practices in the hospice setting. I wrote over my dead body after a young man I knew in my childhood died of cancer. They were only a few years older than me, perhaps early 30s at the time. Although I wasn't involved with their care while on hospice, I wondered what I would say to them if I was with them. So I wrote it all down. Oftentimes hospice has a generally distasteful tone to it, but I wanted to write something that mocked death and glorified the last moments. Well, I don't think anything more needs to be said about that. Chicago. Take this city, hold it as your own, for when your wheels roll slowly down our lovely lakeshore drive, your lust for wander is finally home. A city with perfect parental presence, always gazing as Mother Michigan. At beautiful blacktop roads of bright obsidian. This must be a dream that I am living in, Vivian. Perhaps boating is more practical, ships locked at the Navy Pier port. The dismal Illinois drivers here concede turning left is an Olympic sport. Weather worried not, patrons of shed, popcorn perfume winds like African rivers, catching Congo's proudest possession, the Patrick Star puffer fish's buckhead teeth quivers. In your head, zombie, zombie, the tune sings sweetly and reminds me neatly. The VR bar isn't far, I said to her calmly. On rainy days, sometimes with headsets we play, and there it will be known we'll fight zombies of our own. Some say only time will decay in a city so sweet the price we pay. A signal from some seen stranger. Have an awesome, awesome day. I don't know how much I can talk about this one. It's a bit personal. But let's just take a moment here to acknowledge the fact that I rhymed Michigan with obsidian and Vivian. I'm proud of that one. A lot of these are inside jokes, inside references, but if you've ever been to Shed Aquarium in Chicago, they sell popcorn there for some reason. It's like their thing. Like you go to the aquarium and you buy popcorn and you walk around. And I went there and there was this, there was a Congo pufferfish, I think, but it had the goofiest little teeth on it. And it looked like Patrick Star in that one episode of SpongeBob where he says like, "Who you calling Pinhead?" You know that one? If I would win the lottery, billions in my hand like some financial prodigy, whispering, watching, waiting, unlike the dreams floating inside of me, I wouldn't take it, because I can't be bought. Things I want are not on displays in shops to be and displayed on shores. Let me say that again. I wouldn't take it, because I can't be bought. Things I want are not displayed on shop store shelves. Passion has no price. Volition has no value. There is no currency for chemistry. So here my days bleed from one into another, ticks of time racing, competing for a lover, waltzing through the world, searching some treasure to discover. But if you, sitting next to me, with your book perched silently, stop a second and with your words rip violently my name from out my mouth, and then maybe, after a month of waiting, my kiss from out my lips, getting drunk on your love by simple slow sips, your hand folded into mine, guiding me through the grocery store lines, candles for the bathroom, cinnamon or winter pine. And you don't think I'm conceding, and you don't think I'm condescending. Our conversations are never ending, hearing you sing sweetly with your arms wrapped around me, swaying together in our kitchen to an unchained melody. It was your moonlit smile stabbing my eyes like the flash of a cherub's cries, the last missing piece in this loving potion. Together we drive drunk, drinking this emotion promotion. That wasn't bad, honestly. Tell you what, folks, I think the kids still got it. So you can buy this on eastmeridian.org. I mean, it's on Amazon. But I think it's probably, you can just go to grantharding.com. I think is where it'd be easiest to buy. I mean, you could probably just search Holding Prose on Amazon, I would think. But, yeah, that happened.